Accurately measuring for pallet rack guard netting is important to ensure that you have the correct fit, so it can be installed in such a way to protect your employees and prevent product falls. Tools needed: any company required personal protective equipment and a measuring tape. Determine the height of coverage you need. Measure the entire length of the row. Measure the length of a bay, inside post to inside post. Verify the width of every bay in the row, as beam lengths may vary in multiple bay configurations. Knowing the exact row layout is crucial in making sure the netting provides proper coverage for the rack. Measure the width of the uprights. Because rack netting typically covers multiple bays, the uprights must be accounted for in the length of the nets. Determine the type of installation. Will your pallets overhang the back of the rack by 3 or more inches? If no, you can use a flush mount installation where the nets are attached directly to the rack with supplied heavy-duty tie wraps. If yes, you will need an offset installation framework that will allow the net to be mounted away from the back of your rack. Decide which netting style is appropriate for your application based on the heaviest item the mesh will be expected to retain. Smaller mesh options are available where individual product or small box retention is required. Nets are generally supplied in sections no longer than 40 to 50 feet to minimize unsupported spans and provide proper product retention. Carron's staff is here to answer questions regarding netting selection and sizing for proper fit and installation, whether you're inexperienced or a seasoned pro. Offset installation of pallet rack guard netting. Tools needed: any company required personal protection equipment, scissors, 3/8 inch and 9/16 inch wrenches, socket set with 1/2 inch socket, cable cutter capable of cutting 1/4 inch galvanized steel aircraft cable, and pliers. Lay out the nets, hardware, and supplied heavy-duty tie wraps to be used in the installation. Ensure that all nets and parts are present prior to beginning the installation. The offset brackets are installed at the corners of each net's intended location, beginning with the top brackets. Adjacent nets share the brackets and cable hardware located where the nets meet. In other words, there will be offset brackets in each corner of each net on each run of rack. Measure the position of the brackets using the center line of the square backing plate. Attach all brackets to the rack uprights using the included U-bolts, nuts, washers, and a 3/8 inch wrench. The distance between upper and lower brackets should be the same as the height of the net. Measure both sides to be sure prior to tightening the brackets to the rack. Position the sliders on the brackets at the depth needed to accommodate product overhang, and verify that it is oriented correctly for cable attachment in the necessary directions. Set the clevis pin in a hole to fix the slider in position and secure it with the provided cotter pin. Repeat this step for the remaining sliders for each net, ensuring that they are all set at the same depth. Create horizontal cable assemblies for each side of the net. Measure and cut the cables carefully to the height and width of the net. Then tape the ends of the cables to avoid injuries and prevent fraying. Plan for at least 1 extra foot of cable for wrapping around the wire thimble to attach clamps on each end. After sliding 2 cable clamps onto the cable, form a loop with the cable around the thimble and secure tightly with the clamps. Fully extend all turnbuckles. Attach a turnbuckle to one eye of the offset bracket slider using the jaw end. Attach the cable loop to the turnbuckle that's on the bracket slider. Put a thimble through the eye of the sleeve opposite the turnbuckle to connect the other end of the cable. Stretch the cable between 2 offset brackets. Wrap the loose end of the cable around the thimble. Create a loop and loosely clamp the cable parts together with 2 cable clamps. Slide the excess cable through the clamps to create a hand-taut cable and tighten the clamps completely with a 1/2 inch socket wrench. Tighten the assembly by turning the middle of the turnbuckle until the cable is snug. Do not over-tighten. Repeat for each assembly to complete the frame on all edges of the net. When installing a net, always begin at the top of an outside rack upright. Attach the rope border of the net to the cable assemblies using the provided nylon tie wraps. Begin the installation by attaching the top corners on both sides first. Fully tighten each tie and clip off the tail about 1 inch from the clasp. Next, attach the bottom corners on both sides. Attach the center of the net's top rope binding, then do the same with the bottom and sides of the net. Place another tie wrap halfway between the midpoint and corner on each side. Continue halving the distance until the net is attached to the cables every 12 inches along all 4 sides of the net. Repeat for each panel until all provided nets are attached to the rack.